wide protest in which at least 23 people were killed. Demonstrations in Kenya over proposed tax hikes turned deadly, leaving many lives lost and dozens injured. U.S. presidential candidates, Democrat Joe Biden and Republican Donald Trump, prepare for Thursday's debate clash. And an Ethiopian student athlete turns his hobby into an innovative business while studying at St. Louis University. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. Now we begin in East Africa, where Kenyan President William Ruto is retreating from his controversial $2.7 billion tax hike proposal on Wednesday, saying he will withdraw the finance bill that has sparked days of deadly nationwide protests in which at least 23 people were killed and scores more were injured. In a televised address, President Ruto announced that he will not sign the 2024 finance bill into law after reflecting on the public outcry against it. It's a stunning reversal after he had condemned Tuesday's unrest as, quote, unprecedented attack on democracy.
Having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024, and listening keenly to the people of Kenya, who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position. The country witnessed widespread expression of dissatisfaction with the bill as passed, regrettably resulting in the loss of life, destruction of property, and desecration of constitutional institutions. On my own behalf, and on behalf of these members and many other Kenyans, I send my condolences to the families of those who lost their loved ones in this very unfortunate manner. These members of parliament came back to us after they went to listen to the people of Kenya. And they came back and reduced the budget on their own by 146 billion shillings. Notwithstanding all these concessions, it has become evident that members of the public still insist on the need for us to make more concessions. And because I run a government, but I also lead people, and the people have spoken.
The smell of tear gas lingers over the streets of capital on Wednesday amid a Nairobi High Court decision to stop the deployment of the Kenyan Army, which had been ordered by President William Ruto to support police following Tuesday's nationwide deadly protests against the proposed tax hikes. There is a tense calm across the capital as Nairobi remains under heavy guard, with police patrolling deserted roads near the Parliament building that was cordoned off with crime scene tape after sections were torched in Tuesday's unrest. A smoldering fire and debris littered streets where shops has been destroyed.
What the government did to deploy a lot of force on us, it wasn't good. Yeah, we are not happy about it because they killed our colleagues and fellow youths. It's not okay. It's very bad. We are demonstrating peacefully. It's our right to demonstrate. It's in the Constitution. So I want to tell Mr. President to really think about the youth. It's not good. We are just expressing ourselves.
For more insight into President Ruto's decision to withdraw the proposed finance bill to raise funds to pay off government debt, let's go to Kenyan Iraki in Nairobi. He is an associate professor of business and management sciences at the University of Nairobi. Professor Iraki, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
The bill was framed as an effort to increase revenue to help the country deal with immense debt. What is the essence of the bill?
I think the deal has, first of all, been very contentious because while the government is saying that they want more funds for funding projects and for making sure that we don't get more debt, people are feeling that this finance bill is going to cause a lot of hardship to the ordinary Kenyans. Kenyans are saying that the cost of living has gone up, that if more taxes are instituted, the cost of living will go even higher. And they are saying, wait a minute, we are already suffering. Why did you make our suffering even more? So I think the most contentious issue in that bill is actually more taxation, taxing some items that were not taxed before, like bread, taxing cars that were not there. But the government came and withdrew some of those contentious clauses. And today, the president will withdraw the bill. And we are hoping that after withdrawing the bill, people are going to be relaxed and they're going to believe that the changes are inevitable, and what they thought was not very good for the taxation is going to be withdrawn indefinitely. But we can only wait and see.
So in terms of revenues, what are the government's targets with the tax hike?
The government was targeting to raise about 300 billion Kenyan shillings from the extra taxes. Remember that we have a bigger budget of about 3.99 trillion Kenyan shillings. And the government is intending to reduce the budget deficit so that we don't borrow as much as we are borrowing before. And one way to reduce the budget deficit is to raise more taxes. And the more taxes that the government intends to raise was coming from the informal sector, from people who are not paying taxes before. And they are feeling that they're advantage because of the bad economic situation. But it was ambitious, but we are going to wait and see.
And quickly, before we wrap, what alternative fiscal policies could the Kenyan government consider to raise necessary funds?
One of the most often discussed issue is that if you are not able to fund the budget, why don't you reduce the budget? Why don't you live within your means? And the other contentious issue that Kenyans are talking about is why don't you reduce the government expenditure? And one of the most focused area is corruption. That if you can reduce the corruption, you don't need to pay the taxes. You don't need to borrow. And that's why Kenyans are saying, instead of raising taxes, instead of borrowing, why don't you reduce corruption? And more money will be available for the economy, and everybody will be happy.
Okay. We have to leave it there, Professor Iraki. The message is clear. Thank you so much for your perspective. Kenyan Iraki is Associate Professor of Business and Management Sciences at the University of Nairobi. Despite the nationwide unrest at home, the first contingent of Kenyan-led peacekeepers arrived in Haiti on Tuesday. Africa 54 managing editor Vincent Makori has more.
These are the first Kenyan police officers deployed to tackle gang violence in Haiti. This contingent of a long-awaited Kenyan-led peacekeeping force arrived in the Caribbean country on Tuesday. Haitian Prime Minister Gary Conille promised that little by little, control of the country would be regained.
The state will regain power and reaffirm its authority so all Haitians can live peacefully in this country.
Because the people...
Kenya's National Security Advisor Monica Juma said the force would prioritize protecting civilians, opening up routes for movements of people, goods and humanitarian aid, and protecting state institutions.
People of Haiti deserve peace, deserve security, deserve sustainable development.
Gang wars in Haiti have now displaced 500,000 people. Nearly 5 million are facing severe food insecurity. Armed groups, which now control most of the capital, have formed a broad alliance while carrying out widespread killings, ransom kidnappings, and sexual violence. However, even as uniformed Kenyan police disembarked from a Kenyan Airways plane in Port-au-Prince, a different kind of chaos was erupting back in Nairobi. Kenya police opened fire on anti-tax demonstrators who were attempting to storm Parliament. Several protesters were killed and dozens wounded. A Kenyan security source said the Nairobi violence was unlikely to disrupt plans to send more Kenyan police to Haiti. It has, however, led to some questions over Kenya's ability to lead the security mission. Vincent Makori, VOA News.
The Global Emotions 2024 report is a comprehensive study that assesses the emotional well-being of people worldwide. Conducted by Gallup, it measures various emotional states, both positive and negative, that individuals experience daily. The report analyzes stress, worry, sadness, anger, and happiness data, providing insight into how these emotions fluctuate across different regions and countries. Stress levels are decreasing worldwide, with notable declines from COVID pandemic highs. But over 20% of adults around the world are experiencing loneliness, with significant regional variations. For more perspective on the Global Emotions report, Julie Ray, Gallup's managing editor for World News and the lead author of the Global Emotion 2024 report, joins us live from Omaha, Nebraska. Julie, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the key highlights of the report, and did anything surprise you?
So Gallup has been asking the world how it's feeling for almost 20 years. The big finding this year is that negative experiences are down for the first time since 2014, and we saw a slight uptick in positive experiences.
And how were the emotional states measured across different countries, and what tools were used to assess it?
So we survey the world either over the phone or in person, and we ask the world the same 10 questions everywhere. So we ask 5 questions about people's negative experiences, stress, anger, worry, sadness, physical pain. And we also ask 5 questions about their positive experiences, whether they learned something interesting the previous day, enjoyed what they did yesterday, so on. And based on their responses, we're able to calculate an index score, a negative experience index, and a positive experience index. And so that, depending on how high or low the index score is, it shows, how much of a country is feeling negative experiences and how much of a country is feeling positive ones.
And Senegal is the only African country that is listed as the highest positive emotions. Tell us more.
Yeah, so actually Senegal made the list in 2024 report, the top 10 list of the most positive countries around the world. It's not the first time that Senegal has actually made the list. It made it one time previously in 2021. Now, we did see, and Senegal stands out because it is the #1 country in the world on whether people learned something or did something interesting the previous day. So it's the #1 across the world, but it's the highest also in Africa on that measure.
And
so
Afghanistan didn't do so well.
No, Afghanistan actually since 2017 has been at the bottom of the positive experiences list and near the top of the negative experiences list.
And briefly, what is this? Why is this report important? What is the main takeaway?
Well, the main takeaway is that, the emotional health of the world is looking a little bit better, but there's a huge caveat with that. Negative experiences are still higher than they were a decade ago. So there's a lot of work still to be done. And we see, of course, you mentioned loneliness is a factor in that. We started measuring that in 2023, and it actually makes negative experiences worse.
Well, we hope for better days ahead. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet.
Julie Ray is Gallup's managing editor for World News and the lead author of the Global Emotions 2024 report. On Thursday, a major event takes place on the U.S. presidential electoral calendar. Democrat Joe Biden and Republican Donald Trump debate for the first time for the 2024 voters. But it is not their first time debating each other. VOA's senior Washington correspondent Caroline Presutti has the details.
When these two last met,
let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is
one was a first-term president.
I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
The other, a long-term politician.
People out there need help.
The 90-minute matchup was filled with chaos and interruptions.
You shut up, man. Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
VOA asked voters what they remembered about that debate.
Oh gosh, that was a while ago.
I remember that Trump was, a superior debater.
Trump was obviously sort of employing these very childish tricks, interrupting him constantly, and Biden sort of wasn't really having any of it.
This same political theater is expected Thursday.
Sir, with $1 billion, if you
that is absolutely not true.
But could be tempered because of new rules. In this debate, a candidate's microphone will be muted when it's not his turn to speak.
Yeah, I wish it didn't have to come down to that, but given the last debate, I think that's a good policy or protocol.
One of the more memorable lines in this 2020 debate came when then-President Trump was asked to condemn white supremacists. Analysts say he issued an alert.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Both men were asked if they would accept the election results that year.
If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that.
I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it.
When Trump lost the election, his backers stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th in an attempt to overturn the result. Analysts predict this debate won't change the minds of voters who have already decided.
Come on, let's go. Supporters of Joe Biden are going to dismiss his slips of tongue or his misstatements, because that's kind of who Joe Biden is. He's kind of always been that way. Trump's supporters similarly are going to say, yeah, well, he's just Trump. He's speaking off the cuff. Take him seriously, not literally.
This undecided voter knows what he wants to see on Thursday.
A lot more love, I think, to bring us together.
A second debate between the presidential candidates is scheduled for September, but that could depend on how things go on Thursday. Caroline Presutti, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, an Ethiopian student turns his hobby into an innovative business.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, in 1998, Kailash Satyarthi marched around the world with a cause to mobilize millions against child labor. Now, he is still passionately trying to protect children and keep them in school as he visited a number of African countries. Join me, Vincent Makori, on the special edition of Straight Talk Africa on child labor and the efforts of one man to end the practice.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
In other news, Nigerian authorities are declaring a national emergency and have activated response operations to control a cholera outbreak that has killed at least 53 people. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control says its decision to activate the National Cholera Emergency Operations Center follows a risk assessment. Malawi has opened an investigation into the cause of a plane crash that killed Vice President Saulos Chilima and 9 others on June 10th in northern Malawi. A government spokesperson says that German experts will look into several areas leading to the crash. And WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is back in his homeland Wednesday, landing on Australian soil aboard a charter jet hours after pleading guilty to obtaining and publishing U.S. military secrets in a deal with the U.S. Justice Department. It's time now for our technology report, and Paul Ndio joins us now with a very special guest. Paul?
Thanks, Linod. This is a fascinating story about a young Ethiopian student, Farrell Ahmed, a St. Louis University track and field athlete that turned his hobby into an innovative business. Farrell, welcome to Voice of America.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your business. From what I've seen, you started this in your dorm at school.
Definitely, yes. I started this my freshman year of college in my dorm room at St. Louis University, and what inspired me to start this was I was born and raised in Ethiopia, so when I came here and saw how much sought after Ethiopian coffee was, it didn't make sense to me that there was so much discrepancy between how much people loved Ethiopian coffee and how little farmers made back home selling their coffee. So I went down the curiosity hole and I came to find out that there's too many players who's in supply chain, leading to farmers not taking home a lot of money. And considering my direct relationship with local farmers in Ethiopia, I wanted to solve that by doing what I could, and I started the business.
Interesting. In the school dorm, when the school found out, what happened to you?
So the school found out after about a year in of doing this, and the policy is that you can't make transactions in your dorm room, and most of my customers aren't students. And by the time they found out, our business has grew, and we were moving out to a warehouse in a couple of months. And I told them that there's no way I could just not do this. I've worked too hard for it, and they allowed me to keep working on it.
Impressive. You know, we are not used to hearing people starting businesses in their school dorms. Yeah. We usually hear people starting businesses in a garage. Yep. So how is your business doing today?
We're doing great. We've grown a lot. We started with 30 pounds of coffee that came in my mom's suitcase from Ethiopia. And now we're bringing in containers and selling to micro roasters around the country, as well as roasting. Anyone would switch places with me. So that makes me not take what I have here for granted. And that's what keeps me going, is to take advantage of every opportunity that's presented to me, because I was very lucky to be able to be in this position, and not a lot of people have the amount of luck that I do, and because of that, I have to make sure I make it worthwhile.
I know you are a business major, but at the same time, did you have this business idea in mind, or it's just something that you picked up while in school?
I've been very entrepreneurial. I'm 21 right now, but I've started 8 businesses till now, till Moi Coffee. So 7 businesses in high school that I started. I've done a lot of things, from stock trading to reselling shoes. So I've always been very entrepreneurial, and this idea came, and most of the things I've never did for more than 6 months, but I'm glad that we're a year and a half in with coffee, and we're growing more than with any businesses that I've ever done. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this one goes.
So what keeps you going? There are a lot of young people out there who have a lot of ideas, but they don't know what to do with those ideas. What can you tell them?
I think the hardest thing is starting. Honestly, when I first started, the first initial idea was actually to get a cart and start selling coffee to students on campus. That was my initial idea. That led to me starting an e-commerce brand where I ship out, and then we shipped out to 45 states in our first year. We have customers in almost all 50 states right now. And as long as you start, your customers and the market will lead you in the right direction. One thing leads to the other, and before you know, you're you're a lot bigger than you could have ever imagined. So just start doing something, start selling something, or in one way or another, just get going, and before you know, you will discover there's a lot of opportunities that you haven't even expected.
If I heard you correctly, you seem to suggest that business seems to be doing very, very well. What's the magic word? What's the trick?
I think for us, authenticity. From the beginning, I've told people that I was doing this out of my dorm room. There were some people that was suspicious and didn't want to buy because they thought, how do you do a business out of your dorm room? But for those who overcame that hump and decided to become my customers, they're almost everybody's my lifetime customer because they relate to that story. So authenticity has been a huge part of our success so far. We show you, and we're very transparent with everything we're doing, and I'm not worried about putting my story out there and saying it how it is. And authenticity.
So in terms of sales, you talked about how you are able to ship in about 50 US states. How much sales are we talking about? Are you profitable yet?
We're profitable. So one of the things, the good thing about running a business out of your dorm room is you don't have to rent a warehouse. So our overhead cost was very low from the beginning. So within the first 2 months of doing the business, we were profitable. But now that we're renting a warehouse and doing that, we're living.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you so much, Farrell.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
Farrell Ahmed is a student at St. Louis University. Thank you so much. Back to you, Linod.
Hey, Paul, I'm a tea drinker myself, but I hope you save me some coffee here. Well, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.